sure.
Now, real quick too, one more thing here before we turn. You got to tell us the story of, like, it's my favorite story of the football and the football pants story.
I'm not going to tell that because I got friends out there. No, I'm serious.
Hey, this ain't gonna get posted till you're gone.
Yeah, I bet. I know you like a hawk.
He lies.
Hey, what's up? It's your boy Burf, and I've got a special treat for you tonight. So when we were in Pennsylvania visiting my parents, we were sitting on the back porch and my dad started telling stories about his childhood all the way up through his adulthood. My dad will actually be 71 in August of this year. And as he started to tell the stories, I was like, man, I need to record this, just like for my own personal archive. You know, today's Father's Day, and my dad is 71, and I pray that he's got like another 20 years in him. That would be freaking awesome. But as he gets older, I realize that, you know, he's not gonna be around forever. So I wanted to record some of these stories that I could have to share with my own grandchildren one day, and just keep them for myself. So like someday when he's gone, I can have these this video to go back to and enjoy this story time. Some of these stories that he tells in this video, like I've heard before, but they never get old. He tells them in a very entertaining way. So I wanted to share this stuff with you guys as well. He had a pretty, how should we say, he had a very interesting life. He grew up living in poverty and is the only Burfield ever to actually go to college and graduate. In fact, he graduated cum laude from the Indiana University of Pennsylvania, and then went on to get a master's degree in divinity. So my dad was a coal miner for 17 years. And when his mine shut down in the late 80s, he went to college and became a Methodist minister. So he's got some really amazing stories to tell, and I thought you guys would get a kick out of them. He's pretty funny, and some of the stories will have you laughing for sure. So on this Father's Day, I wanted to honor my dad by sharing his life with you guys. So kick back, go pop some popcorn. It's a long video, but I promise you it will be entertaining and you will fall in love with this man. Like he's just a good guy all the way around, and he had some very, very interesting stories to tell. So anyway, go get your popcorn and enjoy the video.
Well, when I was about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of anything. And my grandmother came for the week to stay with us from New York. And she had you know, she always kept money. She either kept her money pinned in her bra. That's what the old people did. And she always had a few dollars in her purse. Well, her purse was open, and there was I saw a dollar bill laying in the wallet part. And I knew I wanted a yo-yo. And up at the local store, they had these yo-yos for 99 cents. 99 cents. So I took the dollar, and I went up, and I knew I shouldn't have taken it, but I did. A young tyke, and I walked up to John Corri's store, I think it was, up here in Roxbury.
So you just went by yourself at 7 or 8?
Oh yeah, we rented a house about a block, not even half a block down from his, down over the hill. Like there was no houses down there but ours. It was like a lane that just walked up to the store.
Oh, that's nice.
Actually, that's where my mother grabbed me when I was little, and I ran a wire through my hand. We were spinning a big old tire down the hill, and one of the, I guess, steel belts or wire was in it, and I caught the tire because whoever caught it would take it back up and roll it down for the next guy. And I had a wire going through my hand and coming out the other side, so I run into the house, and my mother was pregnant, 8 months pregnant, I think. I mean, she was out there, and she ran up to this John Corri's store because Dad was working, and the only one that was there was the milkman. And back in those days, they delivered milk in these little trucks, you know. So she's hysterical. I'm bawling and screaming, and she asked the milkman to take us down to Clonmel Hospital, which was only about a mile and a half away. So he more obliged, and we jumped in on the other side, and she sat me on her lap, this little guy, and my mom's pregnant, and ran me down to the hospital. When I get down there, all they did was pulled it out and, you know, anesthetic on and cleaned it up and so, no stitches. I actually, if you look close, I still got the black hole under the skin where the wire went through, and it went thankfully right between the bones, you know, come on. But back to the story of the yo-yo. So I took that $1 and I come down, I'm playing with this yo-yo, you know, because we're seeing it. Everybody was getting them but me in the neighborhood. And my dad asked me, what you got there? I said, I got a yo-yo. Oh, where'd you get the money? I found it. I was lying, and, you know, from one line to the next. And pretty soon my grandmother come walking in. I'm explaining the yo-yo, and she happened to look over the purse, and she saw, and believe me, Grandma knew how much money was in her purse, you know. And she looked over, and she looked at her wallet, and she saw the one was missing. And she said something, did you take any money off of me, Little Wayne? I was called Little Wayne, you know, Little Wayne. And I said, no, Grandma. Lying again. Oh, why? Afraid I'm going to get punished. So pretty soon my dad come over. He's real stern. And my dad was younger. He was built pretty nice. I mean, you'd be afraid of him because he was muscular, broad chest. Did you take that $1 off your grandmother? Did you steal that $1? I started crying. Yes, 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 I stole it. I took it. And he said, okay. And my grandmother said, don't you do nothing to him. Don't you give him a spanking. Well, it didn't matter. I still got a spanking. And back in those days, you got a spanking either with a belt or a wooden spoon. And if my mother really got mad at us back in the old days, I got caught playing with matches. I got spanked with a switch off a tree. I actually had to go cut my own switch.
Oh my gosh.
And like a stupid guy, I thought the smaller the better. But the thinner, you know, the thinner.
Yeah, it's like... But
it's more sting than the bigger one. But so I got spanked on let's say the ass with that. But Dad gave me a spanking. I asked my grandmother to forgive me, and she did. And I never stole anything after that.
Did you get to keep the yo-yo too? Did they let
Yeah,
you
they let me keep the yo-yo.
Nice.
You know, after the punishment, they better let me keep the yo-yo. But I was only probably 7 or 6. I was really little. But no, I remember that. My grandmother was always treating me to stuff anyhow, so I figured I was entitled to it.
Yeah.
Well, you're not entitled to nothing in this world. You got to work for it. And I learned that lesson as well back in that day. And that's where it comes back to where I told you I was breaking tires down at a junkyard at 12 for 5 cents a tire. Making money for my spending money. And because like I said, I had, what, 6 brothers. And didn't have a lot of money. Lived on surplus cheese from the government and surplus peanut butter, which, by the way, the surplus cheese, people, was excellent. I'll tell you, it was the best cheese I ever ate. Maybe because it was after the war and they kept it in the caves for what they do, cure it, make it. It was great. And so, and the peanut butter was okay, but not as good as what you buy from Jiffy or Peter Pan. I personally like Peter Pan peanut butter. That's my favorite. The smooth.
Yeah,
smooth. That's what I like the best.
What about those tires you broke down? What was the deal with that?
Well, we moved to New Jersey, and my dad and Mom rented an apartment above a junkyard owner. His garage was underneath, and we had a 2-bedroom apartment, 3-bedroom apartment with 4 boys and Mom and Dad, and they had 1 room, and the 2 boys each shared a room, and a kitchen. And the kitchen was kind of like the living room too. You know, it was like open. So I'm 12 years old, and Dad's working. He had a good job then, but I wanted to make some money, and we didn't get an allowance back in that day. I mean, we got told to do something, we did it. We didn't say, well,
what you gonna pay me?
Yeah,
it's part of the family.
Right. So we would do it. So I wanted a job. So I went down and approached the junkyard dealer, and I said, hey, you got anything for me? And of course he's looking at me. I'm 12. I'm chunky, because my nickname used to be Pumpkin. That's how round I was.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, my nickname was Pumpkin, because when my mother used to call us home for supper in Johnstown here, we was out playing with the boys, she would come out, step out in the back porch, and we'd be up in the wood behind the house, and always hear, pumpkin!
Hey, roll home.
I knew it was supper time, you know?
Yeah.
So, long story short, so we get there in the junkyard. He says, okay, I'll give you a job. He says, I want you to break down some tires for me. And I said, huh? I didn't know what it was. Well, back in those days, he didn't have what you'd call a compressor, where you put the tire on it, and the pressure would come down and break the tire off the rim, and then you'd pull it off. Well, we had to do it with a crowbar and a sledgehammer, a little sledgehammer. And so I would let the air out of the tire every day, go down when I went to work for him, let the air out of the tire, get the step on it so I could break the tire off of the rim, get the crowbar under there, pull it up so the lip of the tire come up over the rim, and then I take the hammer and hit the crowbar, took it the whole way around until I got the tire free from the rim. And then I'd reach over and I'd turn the tire and I'd pull the rest of the rim out, the tire off the rim. I got 5 cents a tire.
That whole process.
5 cents a tire back then. I mean,
And how many tires would you do in a day?
well, it all depends. Sometimes I do 25, sometimes 30, 40. It all depends on what kind of energy I had and how long I worked. Saturday, I worked almost all day Saturday, because we lived kind of out and there was really no kids to play with. So I did that, and I make maybe 75 cents a day, maybe 50 cents, 35 cents, you know.
You do it every day, right?
Every day I worked, and I end up at the end of the week.
That is, wow.
At the end of the day, I might end up with $3. End of the week, I might end up with $2 or $3. Okay,
Yeah.
but it was spending money for me and that. But that's, I remember that. That was, it was a good job. He gave me a pair of work gloves too, heavy gloves. I didn't have gloves. He said, "You're gonna need these." He gave me a pair of those men's heavy work gloves, you know. Gave me that and the tools. I worked for him for a summer and a little bit of the fall till we started going back to school. Then I had too much homework and that, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing that. But it was a good lesson on work.
Yeah, good experience.
My dad taught us a work ethic, because when I was older, as a teenager, I got a job at an A&P grocery store. And I started there at $1.25 an hour, I think. And of course, I worked after school every day, and I worked Saturday and Sundays. And at that time, I was 15 or 16, because I needed working papers, and I had to pay my parents rent.
Oh, they were charging you rent.
Charging me rent
15,
for
16.
for working, which
Do you remember how much they charged you for rent?
I think a third of my paycheck or something. Still left me at 2/3.
So it wasn't even like $10 a month?
Yeah,
or
something like that. But you know, because I was making, let's see, age $16.32. I was probably making $50 a week.
Okay.
Okay, so they were getting probably $25 a month.
Yeah.
But it taught me that, once again, I'm not entitled. I'm working. I help support the family.
Right.
So I paid rent, and of course, back then I was ticked.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
But it was a good lesson for me. Of course, I should have charged Chris rent when he left me. But I wanted my boys not to have to do what I did.
Right.
But then again, it was really a good experience for me. So I had a job at a restaurant. I had a job as a paper carrier when I was younger than that. That didn't pay a lot of money, but I would have to walk my paper route. And of course, I see, like on Leave It to Beaver, the guys are throwing the papers off. That's a little TV show, by the way.
Yeah.
The Beaver's throwing papers, so I'm throwing papers up on people's porches. And then when it rained, on rainy days on the weekend, when I had to carry the Sunday paper, which was always packed with flyers,
Yeah.
Dad would take me, and I would jump out. And you didn't fold those; they were, you know, flat. You took them up to the door, laid them in front of the door, like that. You just folded it once to help hold it
Is that
down.
because there were so many like
thick.
advertisements
Yeah.
and flyers that they didn't want to bend them?
Yeah, a lot of advertisers back in those days. Like I said, the paper would be that thick. By the time you got your comics, your advertisements, the Sunday paper, the sports section.
Yeah, I remember that. It'd be like
Yeah,
this
it's
thick.
So I did that, and then I had, like I said, the job at the junkyard delivering papers. Then I had a job at the A&P, I think it was, yeah, A&P grocery store. And then we moved back to Pennsylvania my dad got homesick, so we moved back to our original place here in the Johnstown area, and we moved to New Florence, and he bought an old farmhouse. Well, we had no running water, no sewer system. We moved back, and my mom, when we drove down the driveway that first day, my mother bawled her eyes out because she left a nice home in Jersey, and we come back to this old farmhouse that needed, there was no plumbing.
Yeah, no plumbing.
It was terrible. And the very limited electrical work. Because it was built in the 50's or 60's.
Wow.
Because rumor has it there was a massacre there by Native Americans back in the early 1800s.
On the land? Or?
Yeah, on the land there by the house area. So I don't know how true that is, but that's just something we've heard through the grapevine. But the thing of it was, I went to school. When I got out of school for the summer, our friends were far few between. I didn't have a car. So Dad would get us up in the morning before he went to work about 5. He'd get up about 5. He'd shake us out of bed about 6 o'clock, quarter after 6, take us outside, and we're putting in plumbing, a septic system, and water line for the house that summer. And he'd have the pick and shovel laying there, and he'd mark a stick or mark a spot, stone or a stick or something. This is where I want you to start. This is where we left off. And then he'd walk down and he'd put another stone. He says, I want a ditch dug down to there. I want it at least 1.5 feet, 2 feet wide. I want it, when you get down to this pot, it has to be tapered down to 2 feet, 3 feet, you know, because it was wood. So, and he said, I want that done before I'd come home from work. So we'd work like heck because we knew that we'd have fun time after we got done with our job, or of course, chores.
Yeah,
it was
chores,
labor
yeah,
work. And we do that. So we did that all summer. We got the septic stuff put in, and then we would bath at the spring house, even at the first winter.
You had a spring house there on the property?
Yeah, spring house about maybe 30 yards from the house, because we used to carry our water into the house.
You would go down there and bathe?
Yeah, in the early fall, early winter.
Was there like a spigot that was coming out of the spring house?
We would catch the water in buckets. Yeah, well, there was a pipe coming out of the spring.
Pipe, yeah.
We'd catch the water in one of those scrub buckets. We'd have 2 of those, and we'd put some stuff on us to soap us off, and we're bare arse naked. I'm telling you, we're naked, all boys, you know. Nobody around because we're out in the wilderness. We'd soap all up, and then one of the brothers would dump water on the other, or we'd dump
Probably
our own.
ice cold too.
Yeah.
Ice cold. We.
Could you imagine?
I shouldn't say. I won't say it, but
You can say it.
Yeah, you say it.
nah, because you'll post this, and it's gonna.
Oh, what is it?
Well, believe me, cold water does affect you. That's all.
Oh, okay.
So it ends up.
I was in a pool.
Yeah, George
I
can
was in a
stand
pool.
there.
So it ended up. We'd go in, it would dry off as we went up because it was cold out. Get in the house right away, warm up. We'd put our clothes on, and we usually had. Now by that time I was in high school. Squeaker over there sitting on the rock. We'd have 2 pair of blue jeans, 2 or 3 shirts, underwear, you know, 2, 3, 4 pair of underwear, I don't know, socks, and shoes. And of course, by that time we moved out of the clodhopper stage because when we was younger, Dad bought us all these work boots for school because they'd have to last us a year from the fall to the following fall. Well, now I'm in high school, I'm a senior, and we're getting a little better shoes. Dad's working pretty steady for the railroad here in Johnstown. And but every 2 days, 3 days, our job, since we didn't have any running water yet, we would take our clothes down to the spring house. And there was a pipe come out of the spring. There was like a trap, a door, hole. We had stones logged in it, and we'd put the clothes in there, and we'd beat them down and get them all washed up, and take them in, and we'd dry them over the furnace grates in the wintertime, and in the summertime we'd hang them out and dry.
Yeah.
Of course, they're stiff as hell.
Yeah.
Right. Now I'm curious. And so obviously it took a little while for you to get the sewage and the water pipes in and all that stuff. Where were you guys going to the bathroom prior to that getting installed?
Just outside. The boys would just go outside, find in the woods a little bit, find a
Take it.
spot.
Oh, okay. You didn't
So if you had to,
hole.
so you had to go like take a dump like a couple
Yeah.
times a day or
It was
something.
like
you-
you
Out in
got-
the woods.
It was like he was out hunting. Now I don't know what Mom did, but after we did, well, once we got the toilet in but no water yet, Dad would have us haul in 3 or 4 buckets of water for the bathroom, and then we used that and went into the septic system that we built.
Yeah.
That was, geez, on my mind, 71, 50, 60. That was 52, 53 years ago.
Wow.
And so we did that, but it was good. And it taught me to work hard. And then my mother-in-law, Mac, she talked to my neighbor. I was working in the steel industry when I got out of high school. We worked 2 months because they went on strike, and then we was laid off, so on strike. Well, not even laid off, but on strike and not really getting any money. So my mother-in-law took the initiative, and she called my neighbor who was a foreman in the coal mines, shift foreman, and he told me to get down to the mines and see the superintendent. So she told me that, and oh God, coal mines, I never experienced it. So I went down and looked at Jack, and this is Jack Franklin. He tough guy, but I liked him. He's tough on us bosses on what we needed to do. And I'm standing there, and he's looking at me, and I said, "I'm here to apply for a job. Fill this paper out." So real quick, it was back then. It wasn't a bunch of stuff. Just put your name down, how old you were, how you, what some of your.
Sign this paper.
Right.
If you die, it's not our fault.
So he said,
Welcome.
"I'm tired of hiring people to come in here and they work 1 week and they quit. Are you going to quit in a week?" And he's real stern, I said, "No, sir." He said, "I'll tell you what, I'll hire you. I'll give you a chance. You start next Monday. You be here for daylight shift. We go in the mine at 8 o'clock. Make sure you have hard shoes. You have a miner's helmet, and you have a belt. Put your stuff on, blah blah blah, and coveralls or dungarees or whatever you had." So
Yeah.
I went in the first day. So the first day I'm going with the guys. I got my bucket. Actually, Terry took me down to a local store in Bolivar. I think it was Sealy no, I can't remember his name, but he was a local little store. He had everything: mining equipment, food, candy, clothes, shoes. I mean, everything. So I got my full outfit down there off of him. And so I go in, and we went in on cattle cars. Well, cattle cars were like a train. You had an engine in the front, which is not the type of train engine you're thinking of, but it was a motor. It'd be in the front, and then behind it would be 3 to maybe 6 cars connected together. And each car was probably, in each compartment, you could get 3 guys in comfortable. So 6, 9, you probably have maybe 12 to 14 guys in each one of those. And what they do is they take you to the mine on that thing, and every time they come to a section, the crew that was getting out first, they always sat on the end first, and they'd get out, then we move on, but the next crew got off. Well, I'm going in and I'm looking out, there's no doors, it's just open. I'm looking, not the canopy on top. I'm looking out and I go, holy mackerel, it's just low. I hope it gets higher. I'm getting like a little claustrophobic, So I finally get there. Hey, you back there, Squeaker, huh? Gonna take the big nut? There, my buddy, get the nut. Good girl. So we get up to the section, I get out, and when I got out there, it was like 5.5 feet tall, high, which wasn't too bad. And it was probably 18, 20 feet wide. And we walked down, and we had to go downhill into this section. We went downhill to mine coal. And my first job was with a boss named Had McHugh. And he took me over to the belt line where the coal went out to the outside on the belt. And there was a tailpiece there with a roller on it, and the belt would roll around on it. Well, all the dust coming off the coal, spillage, it'd come back and get in the tail, and if the tail got jammed up, it'd quit running the belt. My job was to keep that tail clean all day. So I worked all day with a shovel there, cleaning out the coal, making sure it didn't run, it wouldn't go down. So it ended up, I did great. Then I advanced as I got a little more time. I got used to it. I went to running working by first I was a red hat. I had to wear a red hat because I was a rookie for I think 90 days or 60 days. And then I advanced. I got myself a white hat as a laborer. And then I went and became a shuttle car operator to take the coal to the belt line from the miner. And then I went for my bug light, we call it a bug light, but the safety light papers. Passed that test, so now I'm able to examine for methane and other, other gases. And after I got that, I was asked to walk belts a couple times because you could do that as a union worker and get a little extra money. So I did that for a while, off and on. They needed help.
And when you walk the belt, is that just to check and see that it's still on track? And
yeah,
it's
see if it's on track.
There's nothing broken.
The rollers are all along the belt. There's three roll, one here and two on the side like that. And the belt was in between them. And they had bearings in them, the rollers. So you had to see if the bearings are shot because you'd hear the roller clanging on the one side. We might see some like little sparks coming out that could cause
fire.
Yeah.
So you'd report the rollers that had the sparks coming out. You removed them, and you removed the ones that had the bearing out the best you could. And then you'd report it, and then when the weekend got there, they'd send a crew of people for the weekend to go in. They'd go down that whole belt, and they would change out rollers, all
Gotcha.
day. Maybe for 2 shifts, maybe 1 shift, all day. But then I got my Boston papers. I got my first section. Well, I was a miner operator for a little bit before that. Then I got my Boston papers, and everything's going great. 7 foot high, mining away. I love it. 6, 7 foot. And then I hurt my back somehow. I can't remember. So I was off work for 3 months, I think. And I went back to work. And by now, they went into local. So I had to take this crew into local. And
when you say low, how low was low cool?
38 to 42 inches.
So the ceiling was 38 to 42 inches high. Okay, wow.
Okay.
So
And 20 feet wide.
So you're crawling on your hands and knees, basically.
On your hands and knees. And we went in on a little buggy. Once we got to the section, there was a little buggy. It started out at 7 foot. Then as you're going in,
ceiling's coming down on you,
looks
and
like
it's
you're
getting
going
narrower.
into a funnel,
Yeah.
So we started in, and the buggy, I bet you didn't sit that high off the ground, and you sat down in the buggy like this as you're going in, so you didn't hit your head. Well, we're going in. I'm the boss. I told him right away, then after we got in so far, I said, stop the mantra, stop the mantra, stop the mantra. I can't remember what we called those little buggies, but stop it. And they stopped and said, "What's the matter, boss?" "I'm sick." "Really?" I said, "I am so sick and nauseated, I need to go out." "Boss, we just got here." I said, "I'm telling you guys, I'm sick. Take me back down. Somebody already pre-shifted the section. You're good for a little bit till they get another boss in here. Don't start anything up, just do some dead work away from the face." So one of the guys took me back to the bus, took me outside, and I went up in the elevator. Now once I got back down into the high where our man trip was, took us in, I felt fine. Took me out, and they said, "What's the matter?" I called and told them I was coming on. I said,
"Yeah,
I'm sick. I got to go home." "You real?" "Yeah." I said, "Okay." So I went home. Never told anybody I was claustrophobic because I was
scared.
I'll be done. So I called my buddy up, Jerry Udesky. Now this was on the weekend. This happened on. I went back to work, I think, on a Thursday or Friday or something like that. And I called him up, and he was working the weekend by himself, and I knew that. And I called him up, and he was going to. What he would do is run the mine, and check things, and for gases and stuff like that, and work. So I called him up, and I said, "Jerry, can you take me into the mine?" I said, "I need somebody to help me, and I can't go in." "Okay." He said, "You meet me at the portal before midnight. Get dressed. We're going in." Because it was 12 to 8.
What was the shift?
Shift, yeah.
Okay.
And we got in. I thanked him. He took me down. Of course, I put my tag on the lamplight where I went out, because if anything happened, they have to know I was underground. He better look for me.
Right.
Because we had these little brass tags would hang up where we took our light out, our lamp out, our headlamp. And he takes me in. We go back up into that section where I was at. And he's taking me up. He's driving. I'm sitting on the other side. We're sitting side by side like a car, but we're down low. He's talking to me the whole way up. just
Conversation.
So we get within, I mean, I could feel it coming on, but with him there, I was okay. I don't know, because I didn't want to be embarrassed, I couldn't do it, or just knowing that somebody cared enough to help me out. So we get there, and he stopped that buggy about, I don't know, maybe 40 feet from where we had to go up and check for gas, 40 feet away from it. And it was in what we call a cross cut. He pulled up, stopped, he said, go up and check for gas. And I'm looking, well, it's where they finished mining out, and they didn't really take the last swipe to make it 42 or 44 inches high. It's still pretty low. So I started up on my hands and knees. I get up there and I do my gas check with the safety lamp and then with the methane detector. I come back and say, there's nothing there. He said, okay. He said, no, I'm going to go up because I'm signing on this. Signing off on this, so I'm going to go up and check. Because when you go out, we fill a book out saying that it was safe. So he went up, left me in the cart there sitting by myself, come back in. He said, how you feeling? I said, okay, I think I could do this. Okay, let's go. So we went back, took me down to the shaft. I went up the elevator, got undressed, showered up real quick, went home, and I was able to go back into mine. But that panic attack was such a claustrophobic and panic and anxiety. My heart was racing. I couldn't believe it. And I knew if I would have got up there with the guys that day, I wouldn't have been worth anything. I'd have been huddled almost in a fetal position, like, you know.
Right.
And then what was really nice on that low coal, sometimes they'd cut a high spot out where they were going to put an overcast in, we called it. The coal miners know what I'm talking about. Well, when you're on your hands and knees, and man, when you got to that high spot, you stood up, and man, you stretched because it was nice. You stretch your back out. So working in that low coal those last couple of years, walking belts where it was really low. And that's really strange, because when I walked belts, it was low there too in some spots. But for some reason, I knew that when I got that 500 feet, it was high.
Yeah, there was like some...
I do like escape route.
Yeah.
Right, where you had like some certainty that you were going to have high cool, where in the other area...
I did.
Yeah, you're uncertain. Yeah.
So that was that in coal mine. So then they laid us off. And,
so what age did you start coal mining, and what age
let's
did
see,
you end?
I started in 72.
Oh, so before...
So you'd have been
20 years
20.
Yeah, 72 or so. Yeah, 72, I think. Because, yeah, I got laid off that year. And I started in 72, I believe. So I worked there till 87 or 88 till they shut her down.
It was
about
88.
15 years.
Yeah. And
Wow.
so I worked there, and it was good guys.
So you were 13
a lot of
years
idiots.
Yeah.
A lot of idiots in the mine, but they were all like redneck guys. You know,
It was almost 17 years that he was...
Yeah,
So
I got 17 and a
So
half
about
years.
15.
I think,
17
pension.
and a half years.
Yeah.
So it might have been like the later part of 88, 89 or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I did that, then I got laid off, and I went to work at a Unimart, managing a new Unimart in New Florence. Worked that for a year. My boss was a woman who thought that she ruled the world, always
Damn
telling
women.
me to fire these people on the team I had all the time because they're stealing, because inventory is short when they come in and do inventory every month or every couple of months. I said, it's not them. We're right in town. You see how many kids come in here on the school bus? And you can't see up those aisles.
Well, you know what's funny about that is that I remember, so when you were working there, I was into collecting football cards. And I would go in there and I would steal them. And I remember one day I was in my room. You came in the room, kind of similar to Pap Wayne. You go, hey, where'd you get those football cards? And I was like, I bought them. And you were like, where'd you get the money for it? And I was like, I did some work for Graham. And you were like, somebody's been stealing cards up at the store. She goes, was it you? And I was like, no, it wasn't. I'm totally lying and stuff like that. But I had stole those cards from there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that. So the boss told me to start firing people every week, and I wouldn't do it. Then what really got me, she asked me to fire my midnight guy, and she told me, you're going to work his shift. I said, I'm working all day, 10 hours a day now. And you want me to go home for a couple hours and come back out for the 11 to 7 shift? Yeah.
Oh,
She
that's
said, you'll work
crazy.
until we find somebody. So I looked at her. I took the keys for the store. When she left, I thought about it. I took the keys for the store. I slammed them down on the counter that first thing in the morning. Called her up on the telephone and I said, keys are on the counter, the store door is locked, I'm going home. I quit.
Yeah.
D, as she was telling me, D, you can't quit. I said, I quit. So I quit.
Yeah, good
so
for
I,
you.
So I applied for a job then at the old Richland Mall here to be a manager of a Hallmark card and gift shop. I really liked that job. I mean, he had hospitalization for us then. I wasn't making a lot of money, but it was easy. I wore a tie and stuff like that.
Nice,
Yeah.
a nice calm
Yeah.
environment.
And I had 5 or 6 ladies working for me, which were older ladies. Well, I think one was 72 at the time, right? But she'd work rings around anybody. Her name was Ann, and boy, she was a great, they're all great. So long story short, they're all older women in their late 50s, early 60s, maybe 70, 73. So Joe told me, my boss, my owner told me to hire some extra people for Christmas season. So I had to take applications and girls apply, guys applied. Well, I chose the girls. I figured they'd be better at the gift line, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah, we know why. We
these-
know you.
I hired these 2 blondes. They were right out of college. They were college girls, you know, right out of college. And I will admit they were fairly good looking, you know.
Of course,
Right.
right.
I figured, okay, the customer comes in at Christmas season. The guys are looking for cards for their wives. This would be great. They'll girls could talk them into some cards. Back then, I tried to be shrewd in how we sold merchandise.
Right.
That's how it's done.
So the power goes out, and we couldn't use the debit machine, you know, the card swipe or the cash register. It was all electronic. So I told him to use my boss. I called him about it. He said, keep the store open. Just have them tally everything by hand. Is my witness. That one college girl, she could not add numbers up without a calculator.
Yeah.
I can't do this on paper. I said, you gotta go. No, I can't do this on paper. She couldn't do it, and she didn't know how to make change.
Wow.
I thought, boy, did I hire a bad one here.
That's like...
So it ended up, we let her finish out the Christmas season.
Because you hired on looks.
That's right.
Not on experience.
Not on merit. That's
Yeah.
right.
So I did that. So I worked there for a long time, and then I hired 2 preachers' wives because I knew they'd be, I'm going to say mostly honest, you know, and soft-spoken. And they heard I wanted to go into ministry by then, so they invited the district superintendent to come down to the store
So that's
one
how
night.
you got led into...
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know this story.
Yeah, he come down to the store. We went back into my back room in the office in the back room where all the supplies was. And he said, you want to blah, 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 ministry? I said, yes, he's a superintendent. Roger Rulon was his name. He come into the store that evening wearing a pair of old tennis shoes, an old pair of baggy pants with some kind of shirt on and a trench coat that came down to below his knees. And I'm like, whoa. Looked like he just got up that day. Like he just got out of a nap.
You're like, this looks like a good job.
So we go back there and he's talking to me. So it ended up, he got me a church up in Big Run in Albion, up in Punxsutawney area. And I went up there as a student pastor and got started in 1980. Did I go, was it 88 that I started in the ministry?
No.
92.
92, yeah.
Yeah, I started in the ministry. I went to Pitt University for a semester. Then I transferred to IUP. And then after I got my degree at IUP, I went to Columbus, Ohio for 3 years. I got a master's in divinity. And by then I got certified as an elder after 7 or 8 years. And I was a full elder in the Methodist Church. And I was very lucky. I had small churches most of my time, which was okay. Because the small church people you really get to connect with.
Right.
And then one day I got a call by the bishop to take a big church in Cranberry Township. And I was ticked off a little bit. because I already have plans up in St. Mary's to build a new church. And we raised the money, we bought the ground, we got it, was getting the storage in and all that. Architect drew up the blueprints for the church, and met him, told him everything I was doing, and I'm figuring, oh, okay, we're good. He said to me, okay, this is what he said. We're sitting at Dean's Diner, and he's eating some kind of, he's on some kind of green diet at that time. There's a health thing going around. He's eating something green. Of course, I'm having some kind of Salisbury steak with French fries, and yeah. So I told him everything he tells to me, and he says to me, he says, I'm going to put you in Dutiel, in our Methodist church. We want you to go there. And I said, Bishop, I really don't want to go. I said, I really got it nice where I'm at. The people are great. It's good for me for hunting and fishing. I said, it is. And there's a lot of people that volunteer and help with the church. And I mean, it's done a lot of work. It's one church. I hate to say it, but it's a lot easier on a person's nerve when your parishioners don't have major issues. That's what I said.
Right.
He said, well, I'm going to tell you something right now. He says, you know where you're going this year, but next year you won't know where you're going. Meaning,
he may send you
somewhere that clear out in Timbuktu with
sounds
six
like
churches.
sounds like mafia.
That's kind of what he said to me. I remember that. And I thought, okay, so I said, Bishop, I'll pray about it. So I'm driving home from Blairsville, clear back up to Elk County, ticked. Call her up, bend to her, got home, and I'm praying about it for about 2 or 3 days. And then finally I just got a peace. I thought, you know, I'm supposed to go there. So we moved down to Dutiel, and I probably would have ended up retiring there if I wouldn't have had this neck surgery at 62 and had to leave the church after take early retirement at 62.
Yeah, you spent what, 22 years in the Methodist ministry?
Total, I think 22 years of everything. You know,
yeah, your student pastorship and all that. Yeah.
So it was good, and Dutiel was a good church. They had everything I wanted. They had that I wanted, the lead. They had an organist with a bell choir. They had a praise band. They had projectors and screens, and the people were active, and the leadership was phenomenal. Here comes Squeaker again. Where are you going for more food, buddy? Get that nut.
Get it.
Don't be shy. Okay, that's it.
Okay, bye.
So it was everything that I thought was great about our church. Leadership was wonderful, and I had some good people. I had there was a lot of special people, but one guy that I really liked, his name was Bob. He was part of the finance committee. And he's a self-made man, in my opinion. He was in the Marine Corps, worked his way through, I think, at the PNC bank level or something, and moved up the ladder. And he was very knowledgeable and helpful on how we ran the finances of our. I really liked that guy. I just saw a picture of him on Facebook at a graduation for his grandson, I think it was, him and his wife. And I thought, boy, I ought to call him and just see how he's doing, because I haven't talked to him since I left the church 7 years ago when I retired. So I really liked him. Then there was Alan, was a great guy. I can't remember everybody's name. My memory's going, not as good as it used to. But a lot of great people there that were leaders. And I had good staffing for the most part. There was always good staffing. I was fortunate I had a youth pastor and I had an associate pastor, which took a lot of stress off. But I was a visitation pastor. I like to visit people when they were sick. And when this happened to my neck, I couldn't go to the hospital as much. And I felt like I was shortchanging my associate pastor, because then he was picking up
All the slack.
the burden, not the burden, but the extra work, and he had his own stuff he had to do. But so I retired.
So this is like
Now you're living the
whole
life,
evolution from stealing money to get money,
Yeah.
and then getting your first job with tires, and all the way to retiring. Yeah.
And now I'm sitting on the back porch talking to my son,
Enjoying.
feeding my chipmunks when they come around. Do I do anything bad as a retired pastor? Well, I'll be honest with everybody. Once in a while, I will drink a beer. I mean, I chewed and I quit.
Because I remember when I was little, you chewed.
Yeah, and then I
Because
quit.
you used to have keep snuff in your glove compartment. And one day Chad Walsh came over and I pulled that out and I said, hey, look, Chad. And I put it, but I didn't know you put it between your lip.
I put it on your tongue?
I put it under my tongue because that's where I thought you were putting it when I would watch you do it. And it was like, yes, I was like, oh.
So I quit. No, it's been a good life and good. It's been.
Yeah, I mean, look at your
funerals.
I know,
I bet you I must have done 500 funerals in those
when you
years. I was the funeral pastor for a lot of these little communities that when somebody died, they didn't have a pastor. They'd call me up. One Christmas week, I think I had 3 or 4 funerals, plus I had 3 candlelight services at different churches, and I had dinners to go to. And I remember calling the district super, and I had the flu. And I called the district superintendent up and I said, I quit. He said, what do you mean you quit? I said, I'm so sick. I mean, I'm sick. I can't take it no more. I said, it's overbearing. I got 3 churches. I got 3 funerals. I quit.
For you, yeah.
He said, no. He said, you take 3, 4, 5 days off there after the Christmas week.
yeah, nice.
Lay on the couch, drink some hot tea. And he said, call me back in a week.
Yeah.
So I rested. I called him back in a week, something like that. And I said, John, I said, disregard that last message I gave you a week ago. I said, I'm okay now. But people don't realize the stress the pastors go through, especially parishioners. They're not realizing they're not dealing with just their own family members. People aren't only just dealing with their family members or maybe their neighbor. Pastors are working with the whole congregation.
Right.
And
yeah, and you're having to like listen to like people with mental problems or marital issues.
And you're not a psychologist.
No, right?
And sometimes what I would do when people come to me for counseling after 3 or 4 times, I would recommend them they go to a regular
marriage counselor
that's been certified in with a degree.
Yeah.
Or a psychologist to get their help, because pastors are only so much they can do unless they got all the background knowledge with it to work with it.
Right.
So, but you know, it was tough. But and then I was dealing with sugar diabetes at the time, and I was so sleepy at times.
Yeah. Well, like this is your property now. This is your homestead.
Yeah.
See that over there? It says Burfield Homestead, established 1972. So, but yeah, check this out. When Nicole and I were saying how much we love the privacy of the property, because like there's houses up there, but you can't see. You can probably see if I zoom in right there.
Now, in the fall,
yeah,
when the leaves come off, you can see the neighbor's lights on. But when spring comes in that, privacy, no privacy. I still wouldn't sit out here nude or nothing, I mean.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah.
Let's all hang out.
But you got a lot of my life, but I want to restate that we were poverty when I was growing up. We were poverty. And then, one more thing. I met my wife on the school bus in 1971. And I started dating her. And we got married in 72 on July 7th. 8th.
Yeah, it's the same day as ours. Me and Nicole's is July 8th.
July 8th, we got married. We've been married 51 years this year. And it's been a good marriage with her. Difference of opinion at time, but we get along. And she was the most beautiful girl I've ever seen, I thought. And I just love her. Love every bit of her. Even when she weighed 104 pounds when I was married to her, to now. But that comes with age. You gotta realize, when I married her, I weighed like 240 pounds. I was a big guy. Now I'm 185 pounds when I got older. So fat when I was young, you get skinny when you get old. when you're skinny when you're young, you get a little bigger when you're old.
Is that how that works?
How it works.
That's because Grammy's still young.
Vice versa.
Grammy's still young.
All right.
Yeah, Grammy's nice. I call her, she's my marshmallow.
I mean, it is
Fluffy,
nice.
she is.
It
She's
is nice
fluffy.
to hug Grammy.
So that's my whole life, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably bits and pieces I missed about the time my brother Lance was taking the sled ride down that big hill where we had rolled the tire when I was a kid. He was on we were sled riding down that hill. And when you get down to the bottom, there was a bridge, but there was no walls on the bridge. It was just a wooden bridge that went over for the locals that lived down there.
Okay.
And when you got down towards the bottom, you had to turn right to not go into the creek off the bridge.
That's difficult.
Old Dwayne here, 8 years old, he's flying down the hill, and when he gets down towards the bottom, he didn't turn quick enough, and he flew off the bridge, and there was a log going across the creek, and I hit my face on the creek log, and I puffed up. I got black eyes.
Oh my goodness.
I'll never forget that. I could have killed myself for
I
that.
know.
Wow.
I think somebody was watching out for me back then too, because there was a plan for my life that I really didn't know about. And then I got crushed. I got not crushed, but in the coal mines, I pinned my leg against the side of the coal, and did off work for a few weeks with that.
Now, didn't you get run over with the hood of a car that your kids in the neighborhood were using as a sled?
I can't remember.
thought-
An actual
Yeah, they
job
took the
of a
car. You told me they took the car hood, and they
I'm
would
trying
use
to-
it as a sled. And you were coming back up the hill, and they were coming down, and they like basically ran you over.
Oh
with
yeah,
it.
they probably with over their hood.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it just. And then you remember the time I took you and Jason up to
Yeah.
we went down there and I flew off the little saucer. My bum, it was an old strip job we thought was covered over, but there were some boulders in there.
Yeah.
And when I hit the ground, I put a bruise that big on my
Yeah,
left
I
rear
remember
end
that.
cheek and hip.
So it took us, like, you walked the top of the hill. It was a really steep hill. So we nicknamed it the Beast. So, like, you were like, Dad, come sled riding on the Beast with us. So we went up there, and his first run down, he goes flying down on that sled, and you hit that little knoll, like, and you
Yeah.
kind of, like, went up in the
Yeah.
air, and then he came right down his tailbone on a big rock.
Yeah.
And then it took you, like, an hour and a half to get off the hill, because he was walking like this, so slow.
It was black.
I remember that. You're lucky you didn't crack your breaker. You might have broke
Mine
it.
broke
You
something.
might have broke your
Right?
tailbone, like
I
a
fractured
fracture.
a hip or the back of my hip.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why it's so sore today. I have a hard time getting around on it.
For sure.
Now, real quick, too, one more thing here before we turn. You got to tell us the story of, like, my favorite story of the football and the football pants
No,
story.
I'm not going to tell that because I got friends out there. No, I'm
Hey,
serious.
this ain't gonna get posted till you're gone.
Yeah, I bet. I know you like a hawk.
He lies.
Is
All I
this,
know is I had a pair of homemade. I got on the football team. I had a pair of.
you don't
homemade,
have to mention the guy's
Okay.
name.
I had a pair of homemade pants
Okay,
made for me.
hold on. Let's back up real quick. Tell us how you got on the football
Oh.
team to begin with.
Well, as you know, when I got living down on the farm with my dad that first year, we had to dig ditches for the storage and water. Well, one day I'm outside. It was after my dad got home from working at the railroad. It was maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock. It was during the summer, I guess at that time, the summer session for football where the guys would start practicing. And here comes this car or truck down the road. They're squeaker by your feet, hon. And these two guys get out of this truck, and yeah, it was a truck, and I didn't know who they were. They come walking up to me because I'm outside. My dad's up on the porch, and he said, "Hey, I'm Coach Kravitsky, and this is Coach Wrestler." He said, "Did you ever play football?" I said, "Yeah, I played football at South River High School when I was living in New Jersey." He said, "Freshman year." Sophomore year. "Oh, not junior year?" I said, "No, not my junior year." I said, "I got tangled up with other guys and ended up like getting involved in we wanted to start a motorcycle gang at that time. You know, we had the denim jackets, the sleeves cut off. We had the emblem patch made up.
What was the name of the
The
gang?
emblem was an arm with a hand with a ball and chain with a spiked ball on the end. That's what we had. And I forget what we called ourselves back then. I was 15. Until the pagans or the Hell's Angels, either the pagans.
You
or
said
the
it was the
Outcasts.
pagans, from what I remember.
Yeah. They drove up. We was having our meeting in the garage, a bunch of young guys, and they come up and they stepped into the garage where our meeting was, and they looked like they was like 19 or 20. They put the hammer down. You would not believe how fast those patches were ripped off and burned.
Oh my God.
I mean,
they
said
no other gangs are coming around.
They knew how they owned the area more or less, you know. So long story short, so I got involved in that for a while. So I didn't play football. So I'm out there, and they show up, introduce themselves, ask me about football, and they said, "You want to play for United High School?" I said, "Geez, I don't know." I said, "I don't know if I'm going to be able to get there. I don't have a car. My dad works daylight. Blah blah. We'll get you there." But so my dad comes down, and they asked my dad, and he said, "We'd like to recruit your son to play football for us because we need some big guys on the team." And at that time, I was 6 foot tall, and I think I weighed 210 pounds at that time. And that's pretty big
good
for
football size,
first,
yeah.
you know, going into senior year. So that's it. It's up to him. I can't get him there though. He said, "We'll take care of that." So I said, "Yeah, I'll go." So they picked me up. Somebody picked me. I can't remember if it was Coach Ressler or whoever. Somebody picked me up, take me out to summer sessions, 3 a day. I think 2 or 3 a day. And I practiced, and I was doing pretty good. So we got to our first scrimmage game. And we were playing a scrimmage game against, I think, Ferndale or Blacklick. I ain't sure, but I was in on I played defense. And
What position?
defensive end, defensive tackle, sorry. And they were doing these reverses with a sweep, you know, off and on a good bit. So, well, Mr. Wizard here finally figured that out after I missed the first one. And that little guy, like a tailback, they're really usually small. He come flying around, and I busted through the line, and I nailed him back in the backfield. So they tried to do it again. I nailed him a second time. I think I nailed him 3 times in the next 2 rounds of plays.
Yeah.
So finally, the coach said, "You'll be playing first string defense for us." Tackle. I said, "Great." Oh boy. I said, "Where's the playbook?" I said, "I need the playbook." I mean, they got me out there doing this stuff, but I'm just new at this, you know. So I got the playbook, blah, blah, blah. So we're having our game, and the coach's wife made me a pair of pants. They were gray pants, but for a place to put my knee pads and my thigh pads in, hip, whatever, knee pads in.
Now, why did she make those?
Because they didn't have enough uniforms to go around.
Okay.
Okay.
And the other uniforms were like a nylon, silky stuff, stretchy, yeah. And they were all handed out. So I'm playing first string defense, and every time I'd come running off the field, I have to pull my pants up because they just would fall down, even no matter how much belts I put on them. So finally, after one game, I guess the coach got tired of me pulling my pants up when I was playing. And the other gentleman wasn't playing as much, and coach told me, he said, "You give Burf your pants."
Give Burf your pants.
Yeah, you take his.
So you got
so
the
I
good
that.
pants.
I really felt bad that day about that though, because he worked just as hard as I did. But the thing of it is, the school should put one out and bought another pair of pants for somebody.
Now, just out of curiosity, did that guy that you got the pants from, did he hold any type of? Did you notice a change in
we
attitude?
became friends. We became friends. Christians. But no, it was a decision the coach made. But I was upset that the school
just wouldn't buy another
just buying our pants. Maybe they had a budget, but still, what would another pair of pants cost?
Yeah.
$30 back in that day.
If that.
Yeah, you know, so I was a little upset about that.
I was always the last one on the field because I was a drill team.
Yeah.
And the whole team would be running out. They'd be out in the field, and here come Burf.
Pull his pants up.
running out loud.
Remind me, I hate to say it, but remind me, somebody's probably going to give me for some kind of discrimination thing, but remind me when I used to watch the Feld Albert cartoon, and he'd come running out, you know, I was kind of like that, big guy running out, pants. But they put the program out for the football season. They put who was playing where and how much they weighed and how tall they were. Well, I'm 6 foot, 210 pounds. By the time summer was, the sessions were over for the summer going into the season, I weighed 195 pounds.
Oh, you had lost
Because you lost weight. I mean,
Right. You're sweating it out. Yeah.
So I get the program after the game. I get one of the programs to look at it. They had me down at 225 pounds, 6'1".
Yeah. They want to intimidate the other side.
And I started looking at the whole thing, and I'm like, well, I know he don't weigh that much. He's less. But the linemen, they kind of bumped him up a little bit
That's
on
funny.
the program.
Yeah, that's what you call a psyop.
That's right.
The coaches probably all have programs too, checking out the team.
Right.
So I did that, but I looked over at the drill team and I'd see her there. And, oh, my heart would just melt. And then I was always a little upset. The big lineman, we never got the breakthrough that stretch that paper thing out across,
when you, like, go out
run
on
out
the
through.
field, yeah.
It was always the fullbacks, halfbacks, and the line.
Got to bust through it.
Yeah.
Really?
They should have once a year at least let
The
linemen be in the
yeah.
front.
You guys are the backbone of the team.
Protecting them. You know, if we weren't trained to be a team,
That's right.
we could have said,
Hey.
"You busted through that paper tag. Let's see how you do without me blocking for you."
Yeah.
Everybody knows defense wins games.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Don't try to say. But no, the football schools should do that for the linemen at least once a year. Let them
Give them some recognition.
recognition for that.
Now, what about that one guy from Laurel Valley that kicked your ass during the game? What was that all about?
Oh, I'll say, Mark, we became good friends in the coal mines. He was the boss too. Well, we're playing Laurel Valley, and he was a linebacker for Laurel Valley, and I was on offensive tackle at this time. No, he was playing either offensive tackle or offensive end. I can't remember what I was doing. But I was a defensive tackle. So I would be down on my position.
Your 3-point stance, right?
Yeah, let's see, I was on defense. Yeah, I was on defense. I'd be down on my position. No, I was playing offense, I think, because I'd be down on my position, 3-point stance, and he'd be standing back there as a linebacker, you know. Well, every time I got ready to come up the block, the other guy or the linebacker would come in, he would take his forearm, and as I was coming up, he'd hit me back across the neck.
Every time?
Every time to put me down. So after the third hit, I went to the referee, and he's a Laurel Valley referee, of course, you know. And I said, I was playing an away game. I said, he's forearming me in the back of the neck, man. I said, that's not right. He needs a penalty called on him or something. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. Well, they didn't take care of it, and I'll tell you what.
The whole game.
It was a brutal game for me. I was sore in the back of the neck. But I remember him good move on his part.
Yeah,
I mean,
he took advantage.
Yeah,
of the
he knew.
situation,
And to this day, I don't know if that chop was allowed or not from behind like that. But it was like he had those pads on his arm.
So.
I'd come up and he'd get me before I even got slow coming up, I guess. And he was standing up, so he had the advantage already.
yeah. Wow.
So I did that, but
Do you
became good friends.
Do you remember what your senior year, what your record was that year? Do you remember?
I think we only played 8 games.
Yeah.
It was either 6-2.
Okay.
I think it was 6-2. You'll have to find out.
Did you guys do any playoffs that year?
I don't remember. I remember going to Blairsville to play, and it was in the October or November, late November.
Yeah. Cold.
Cold, and the snow started to come down. Big snowy flakes. The field was covered with white snow, and we were sliding with tackles. And most fun time in playing football.
Yeah.
I don't even remember if we won that game. Actually, right now, I really didn't care because it was so much fun.
Yeah.
It was, you know. And I still like to go to high school football games. If I ever, when I do, I haven't gone for a long time, but I love to hear the band playing the drums and the yelling and how they do it. Go defense, big D, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I like to hear that. But I did play football with Joe Theismann, who quarterbacked the Washington Redskins a long time ago. He went to South River High School. He got college and got drafted by the pros. And then our end was
Drew Pearson
Drew Pearson.
for the Dallas Cowboys.
Cowboys. He was Drew Pearson's was the end for Joe Theismann. He was a junior, but when he became a senior, he went to college and he got drafted by the Cowboys. And then we had another end, Scotty Karzinski, I think his name was. He went to school, and I believe he got drafted by a pro team too, but I couldn't remember. But South River in that
Produced
year
a lot
put
of,
out a lot of football
NFLs.
players.
Yeah.
And my cousin Joseph, before he got hurt, I believe he told me a long time ago, oh, he's an old guy now, maybe he's dead, but he played for the Detroit Lions for one season until he got busted up pretty good and had to have rods in his back or something like that. But South River put a lot of good football players out. And I don't know how long Drew Pearson lasted, but Joe Theismann lasted a long time.
Yeah, Drew Pearson had a little bit of a career. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. But I'll tell you what, though, those guys were cocky. When we in high school, they knew they were it.
Yeah.
And they all wore rubber bands. Like those big rubber, 3 or 4 or 5 rubber bands. And I thought, I'm just...
What's that for?
I don't know. It was like their trademark.
And the shit.
And what I really like too about playing football, when you got solo tackles by yourself, the line ball coach would always give everybody a decal.
Yeah.
Like a
Solo
yeah,
so
right.
that way it's kind of an intimidation too. You
Was
step
your
on it.
helmet littered with them?
Yeah, it was pretty much littered up with
Yeah.
decals on that towards the end.
that's
Not,
cool.
on the side I got these decals. It was nice. And I started out with the 2-prong mask. I said, hey, I got to have the 3-face.
Yeah, that beautiful face can't be
Especially for a
mangled.
faceman, lineman. So they gave me a three things in a banner. And then the running backs, quarterback had 2 or 1, I can't remember, but it was
Yeah.
But it was good. And we hit hard, but I remember one time my buddy Dan Gibbons, we were in training camp for football. We were really good friends. And one game, I just remembered I found a little letter I wrote to my grandma from 1972 in our old stuff, and I read it the other day to my daughter-in-law. And I was talking about Dan being at the football game, and he got hit pretty hard. He got knocked unconscious. They actually had to come in and get him up off the field. And we didn't know, I told her we didn't know if he was in stable condition when they went to the hospital, or critical or whatever. And I told her I'd let her know, and I went back to school the next day on Monday. And he was okay, but he got what he call concussion. But that was the hardest hit that I can think of.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. South River was a good school. I liked it. I got paddled in school, people. I got paddled in school for smoking in the restroom.
Smoking in the boys' room.
I did. Our principal was Principal Clendenin. He was a farm guy. He had a big farm and big guy. He was been 6'3". I bet you he went 270. But he, what would you say, obese? Like he was like just
stacked. Yeah.
stocky, yeah.
Yeah.
And he could walk in the bathroom. I'm in the stall, and I heard the door open, and I hurried up and got the cigarette out the window, because they had these windows you pulled down. Popped it out the window, got the smoke out, and he come in. Of course, he could smell it. Right?
Smells it, right?
He said, "You smoking in here, boy?" "No, sir." "You're lying to me." "Oh, I'm not smoking." "You're smoking. I know you're smoking. I want you to step out into the hall." So I think he went to across the hall, down by the restroom. The restroom was down by the wood shop area. And he went into the wood shop, and he brought out a paddle, and you had to put your hands up against the locker back then and lean forward. I think he gave me 3 smacks across the back. Oh, first he said to me, "You're getting some swats for that." I said, "Nobody swats me. My dad don't even swat me."
Another lie.
Because I came from New Jersey, and I was kind of like,
A New Jersey boy.
boy, yeah, you know, that's where I grew my
tough guy.
teenage years. So, "I don't care." He said, "You're going to bend over, get over here." And he's real stern, so I got afraid.
Yeah.
And I bent over, and he gave me 3 pretty good swats. And after that, I made sure he wouldn't catch me again smoking in the bathroom.
Yeah, but he still smoked.
I did.
You did.
And then, but I had a metal shop. I always stayed up late at night. When I went to school, I was dog tired. And metal shop was always 2 periods. I think it was 90 minutes or something, 45-minute periods. Well, I had 2 periods of metal shop back to back. So we had these big benches we did our projects on. Well, underneath of them was a bin. You know, there's about 4 foot deep, 3-4 foot deep, 6 feet long. I'd put my apron on. I'd wipe the place out. I'd climb in there and I'd sleep.
Like George Costanza under the desk.
I would sleep through metal shop. But I did pass because I'd get my project. But I would sleep.
And we were dating, Chris, and so metal shop, I was in science class right across the hall. So between periods, we were supposed to meet, you know.
Jesus.
I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. I'm waiting and waiting. And it's like he never showed up. I'm like, see something. Where's Dwayne? Oh, I think he's sleeping. I'm like, all right.
I slept in metal shop. I did. Slept in metal shop. But I did pass high school. I passed with D's and C's. But when I went to college, I knew what I wanted to do, and I graduated cum laude.
Yeah, that's right.
And I got a scholarship.
What was your grade point average? Like 3.5 or something?
It was up there. I wasn't magna, it was cum laude, so probably 3.5, 3.6.
Yeah.
And then
so you don't let those bad grades get you down, right?
I had all A's, and I'll tell you what really kept me down. I had a dang statistics class, and I had a heck of a time with that. No matter how much I got help with it.
It was not a requirement.
Yeah, I thought it was at first. So I think the teacher, the professor, gave me a D because he saw me working so hard on it after class with us too. So I did that. That's what really knocked me down. Everything else was A's, a couple B's.
Tell about your graduation day.
Well, wait a minute. So
Yeah, calm down, woman.
so it ended up. That's where I start now. So I graduate. I'm ready to graduate. Finally, the only Burfield on my dad's side of the family that graduated from college, and I'm proud. And I know my dad's happy. He didn't show a lot of emotion, but I know he was. And her mom was happy for me. They all come to graduation at IUP. They're calling the names out, and they're saying if you got cum laude, you graduate, blah, blah, blah. And I was next. And when they got ready to call me out, the sound system went down and my name never come over the speaker.
That's right. I forgot
Never.
about that.
You believe that? So I don't know if that was God taking pride out of me, because I was very prideful with it. So it ended up, I applied for seminary. I better quit soon because you got a lot of tape going on. So I applied for seminary, and it was a lot of money to go a year. I don't know how much now, but to stay there, and it was a lot of money. And I got a scholarship from them. I think $2,000 for the year or something.
For housing.
For housing. Yeah. And I'm all excited now. And you don't get government loans for seminary, at least back then, for scholarships for seminaries. You didn't get that. And government grants for that, I mean. So I'm like, where am I going to get the money? Okay, I'll get it. So I got some money from the United Methodist Women. They were going to give money, and I makes my own personal loans, grants, student loans, blah, blah. So I got this. I'm happy about it. I'm excited. So that was in like January or February. They told me about that. I got that scholarship. I think it was in May. I get a phone call from the seminary in Columbus, Ohio. It was called Bethesco, yeah, MTSO. It sounds like a sandwich, doesn't it?
Right.
Made to order sandwich.
Yeah.
It was MTSO. So I get a call from them. They said, Dwayne, I said, is this Dwayne? I said, yes, it is. They said, Dwayne, we're sorry to inform you, but you're not going to get that scholarship. My heart sank. Like, where am I going to get that money? And there was like silence for like a second. She said, but I'm pleased to inform you, you're going to get a full grant, full scholarship for the next 4 years. But you have, wait a minute, 4 years, but you have to do it in 3 years to do it. Get the scholarship for 3 years, but you have to do a 4-year course in 3 years.
Program in 3 years. Yeah.
Wow,
I said, great.
Amazing.
So I got a full ride on that.
So you didn't have to pay any money out of pocket for
No,
seminary?
the only thing I had to do is pay for student loans back for my college.
For your undergrad, yeah.
And so I did that. I was lucky about that. I got that, and I asked her, I said, how did I get
The full ride.
the school the full ride? She said, we got a letter from your sociology professor. And I can't remember her name now.
I had that lady in school as well. I can't
Yeah.
remember her name either, but yeah.
She
She
wrote
loved
a-
you though.
Yeah, oh, I think she did.
Yeah.
She wrote a letter about me, and she told them about how I would stay after class and help kids that were on drugs, addicted, and talk to them.
Is that true?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Oh.
I would try to. It didn't help most of the time because they needed, but I took time to hear them out on
Yeah.
the problem. And she told them about that and some other things I did at the University for Students on my own. Nobody knows about, but she heard about. And she said, that's why we gave you
That's
the
amazing.
scholarship, because
yeah.
you have
They gave
the
out
ministry.
3 out of 80 students. They gave 3.
Yeah.
And he was one of them.
Wow.
Because you
That's
had that
amazing.
ministry aspect to you.
Yeah, to help people.
People.
Yeah.
That's why you got it.
Wow. That's
So
amazing.
she was and I'd write my sociology. To believe me, I'm in high school. I was only chasing girls in high school. That's all I was worried about, girls and and
Football
sports.
and,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, but when I did, English was terrible for me in high school and in college. I passed, but it was college, hard. But I would write my first term papers. She'd mark it back, and she'd give me a C or D, or she'd write, "This is not the proper grammar. This is not the right here. This is not the right there. No, this blah blah
Right.
blah." And we don't use ain't. So I'm writing like
Like you speak, right?
But it was good that she was very corrective of me on that, because as I went on, I began to improve more. Now I do have trouble today distinguishing between some of the, not the there and there, but or here and here, but
Yeah.
some of the other things.
Yeah, just the grammar. I'm not good at grammar either.
Yeah.
What's that?
Remember that?
Oh, but yeah, the one lady told me I was tone deaf. I can't hear certain voices real good, and I can't hear the pronunciation of words.
Like your wife?
Very much so. They actually told me when I went for hearing tests that her voice is one I have a hard time hearing. I'm thinking, hallelujah! That's a good one.
How many men are going to start using this excuse? Hey, wife, I took a test.
Hey, baby.
They told me I just can't hear you.
But I like college. I'm a nerd thing about college. So I'm going to be a minister. I'm working for a church now, and I'm not into any bad habits at all. So I'm really naive because I lived out in the country. So I'm walking my first day on campus. I'm walking up to my first class, looking for the first building, the map. And I'm walking past the not the dormitories, but where they have all the students stay in these houses and that. And I'm looking, and there's these totes out front full of bottles. I'm like, what are they doing with all these bottles? Holy mackerel.
That's Jason.
Oh, Bruce.
Hey, here comes my brother. What's going on, Jake?
We're listening to old stories.
Oh,
Poppy
boy.
stories.
Yeah, I was all stressed on the highway. As soon as I hit 954, it all went away.
Good.
Familiar territory.
Yeah.
Back roads.
So
Yeah, maybe you should
I
move
see
back.
all these bottles in the totes.
Yeah.
I thought, what the heck? Man, this is terrible. What do they do with all this glass? I walked over and looked. It was full of Seagram 7s and other types of that. They were whiskey and vodka bottles. They had a party over the weekend. It was my first. After a weekend, everybody had a party on that weekend. I never saw so much booze flying at a campus. I thought, holy mackerel, I don't know if I want to be here or not.
Chris was collecting vodka bottles just for.
Oh, yeah, then I go to my son's staying at a dorm. I'm going to tell this. I'm staying at a dormitory. I'm a pastor. I go down to see him in college. He's living with a couple guys. And I walk in, and I look up above the cupboards and there's all these alcohol bottles. I said, Chris, you're not drinking, are you? I believe my son. No, Dad. No, we just collect them. I didn't know they emptied them first.
Yeah.
You know?
That's part of the collecting
So he
process.
shows you around, and I leave that place, and I'm thinking, well, I'm glad he's not drinking, but
I'm glad he's not drinking.
I mean, I really believed he wasn't drinking. So I find out later he was drinking. And I thought, how could he? He's a preacher's kid.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you another story. This one, somebody. So we're living up in Punxsutawney, big run. I got 2 teenagers. Jason is with a bunch of his friends, and somehow they got somebody in town. Well, we went away to a conference, and he got some, or I don't know how that happened, but he got somebody in town to get them beer. They were all 11 years old, 12, 13. How old were they?
11. Like 14 and 16.
14,
Yeah.
16. So
I was 16.
Yeah.
Going
We
on,
get a-
I was 16 going on 17.
we get a phone call. No, we was at the house. We get a phone call.
Jason wasn't there that night, though.
No, this is
Oh,
something else.
different. Okay.
We get a phone call. Your son's up at the cemetery and he's leaning over a gravestone. He's throwing up.
That's right.
Drinking up?
It wasn't
those
me. It was
kids-
Jason.
All these kids are up there drinking beer. So he got somebody in town buy the beer. These kids. So
He just put 2 stories together.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then we went to a conference one time, and I trust my 16-year-old, 17-year-old to stay at home to watch the 15-year-old, you know? And we come home from the conference. We called home. Everything seemed normal. We come home from the conference, pull in the garage. I look, and there's a paper bag on top of the freezer. But it's spun up like that, like it held a bottle or something. I went over and I grabbed it. It was empty, but the bag was like a whiskey bottle.
Yeah.
So I said, so I looked around. I saw beer cans in the garbage here. And I went out and looked in the garbage. There's beer cans and alcohol bottles.
House was spotless.
Walked in the
one
house.
thing you forgot.
I walked inside and the house was spotless. Everything in place. The dishes all cleaned up. The beds all made. Different than what we make them. Here are these guys invited like some motorcycle people in for a party and their friends. And they had these, and the people that lived next to the church, my parishioners, didn't tell me nothing about it. Because I would have really kicked their butts over that one. I didn't find out till later what happened. So finally, I was so upset, I finally got the truth out of him. I slapped him across the face. So
I still say it was a closed fist. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was closed.
So it ended up, his jaw hurts. I'm thinking, God, if I take him to the hospital, we get picked up for child abuse. Well, what am I going to do? So I call the dentist up. We take him to the dentist to check his jaw and his teeth. They're okay. I kind of said, how'd it go? He said he thinks my jaw hurts because of too much caffeine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what he told me. That's what he told me.
So do pastors lose their tempers when their kids do something wrong? And, you know, I really got upset over that because it was a parsonage. I was the pastor. And I thought it was, I hate to say sacrilegious.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I remember like so we had a guy named Barney that we met at the pool hall who was like a motorcycle dude. And he's the one that bought us the beer. And he bought us a keg. Plus we had bottles of alcohol, you know, hard liquor. But like Trevor Steiner and all those guys and Clyde Beck, they were like, oh, let's go bowling the very next day. And I was like, well, my parents aren't going to get home till Sunday. So we all went bowling. And then when I came home, your car was in the driveway. And I was like, oh, no. They're not supposed to be home for another day, you know?
Who cleaned up the house? It was spotless.
They all helped. They were like, yeah, Trevor and Clyde Beck and Ryan Burkett and Tim Heckman and all those guys. Like, they were all like, we'll help you clean up, Burf. So, and I remember I took all the guns out of the gun cabinet and hid them in your closet because I was afraid that like if people got too drunk they might get the guns out.
Boy, you had some common sense.
Right?
Come on up, buddy.
Well, anyway, Dad, thanks for telling those stories. We appreciate it.
Okay. See you later.
Well, that's it. That's my old man. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching that video as much as I enjoyed recording it and hearing him tell the stories myself. If you did, do me a favor, smash the like button. That helps me out. It does help my channel grow. Also, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. I got a lot more great content coming your way and tons of videos you can start binge watching right now, starting with this next video. I know you're gonna love it.